Hey friends, thanks for taking a few minutes to watch this video. I'm going to be doing a series of short videos to give you a deeper understanding of what we're doing in our mission to plant not just a church, but a network of churches with the Lord's grace hopefully becoming a movement of disciple making in the Twin City metro area. Our vision, our mission, our purpose will all be laid out in this. But in this first video, I want to share some things with you about the cultural context in which we're currently living and how it specifically relates to the mission that we're engaged in. My name is Steve, and along with my wife Ann, we have been planting churches for over 20 years. This is our 5th church planting adventure together. And together we have 2 children, Asher and Karis. And the 4 of us are all in and called in unique ways to this work, which I think is a key to mission success, where you can be a family on mission with each person understanding their distinct and unique role and place in the mission as well. But what I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about is the cultural context we find ourselves in this cultural moment. There is a looming church crisis. I think a lot of people have a sense that things need to change, have a sense that there are unique challenges, but I'm not sure how much you've delved into this to actually think it through, to really dive into the data to find out what is the current state of the church in the United States. What I want to share with you here is what missiologists call a cultural distance scale. And as you see here, we have M0, M1, M2, M3, N4. This scale is a continuum that illustrates cultural distance from the gospel. So each one of these represents a significant barrier to the hearing and reception of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So an M0 is someone, as a Christ follower in the United States, an M0 is someone who is very much like us, mostly thinks the same, acts the same, is in the same kind of cultural and economic situation. When you get to M1, there's minor cultural differences, but still pretty similar. With M2, you get increasing levels of cultural distance and dissonance. There starts to be friction and some more significant differences of opinions on different issues. M3s, there is significant distance and significant divergence of views on all sorts of issues. And M4s, there is just such a distance that there's actually a hostility. And what's interesting with this is on this scale, the prevailing church, the traditional church model that you and I are most used to experiencing, where the church gathers together on Sunday, may have a few programs during the week, but really everything is organized around people coming on the Sunday service. That church, the prevailing model church, does a really good job of reaching M0s and M1s. So there is an effectiveness there, but here's where the looming crisis comes into play. When you survey the landscape of people in the United States, the M0s and the M1s, people who would be receptive to an invite to attend a Sunday service at your church, is overall about 30% of the population. That leaves 70% of the population that are not receptive, and some, in fact, hostile towards the model of ministry that is predominant in our country. It's helpful to look at how this breaks out with generations. So if you're in the builder generation, that is, if you were born between 1925 and 1945, 60% of that generation are attenders of church. when you get to the boomers, those born from 45 to 65, that number drops to just 40% of that generation are attenders. The Gen Xers, that number drops to 20%. Millennials is a little less than 10%. And when you get to Gen Z, it's far less. So everything is trending downward. Millennials, in fact, is the largest generation, 73 million millennials, bigger than the boomers even. So as you come down to this bottom chart here, the cultural dissonance scale, this number that is receptive to the prevailing church model is less than 10%. Less than 10%. Let that just sit with you for a moment or two. Now here's another challenge. It's the methodological challenge. Given that if you're 40 or under, less than 10% are receptive to the prevailing church model, the Sunday-centric church model, here's something that is a bit troubling. 90% of today's church methodology is the come and see approach. 30% of the population is open to that model in our post-Christian culture. But 70+% is not open to it, not interested in it, no matter how good of a job you do with the sermon, with the worship, with the marketing, with all the things that go into a Sunday service. 70+% of our population is not at all interested in what's going on there. Now, because 90+% of churches and plants have adopted a model that targets a shrinking minority of people, a growing majority of our culture, of our country, is moving farther and farther away from Jesus. Now, I don't know how that sits with you. For me, personally, that's heartbreaking, and I can't sit still and not do anything as a result of that. Now, as you delve into the data more and more, there's some good companies that are doing work on this. Lifeway Research, Barna, Pew Research, Glue, and Gallup are some of the other ones. And here's just a handful of the stats that really are quite alarming when you consider it. Self-identified Christians make up 63% of the population. And that might sound, okay, we've got a majority, 63%. But that is down from 75% just a decade ago. 75% 10 years ago would say that they were Christians. Now, upon further examination, more things might be revealed, but 75% said they were Christians, and now that is down to 63%. 30% of Americans are nones. In other words, they identify as unaffiliated with any faith or religion. 47% of Americans attended church in 2020. That's down from 70% in 2000. For the first time in the history of our country that we're aware of, less than 50% of people are attending church. 36% of millennials, the largest generation ever in the history of our country, attended church in 2020. 59% of those millennials believe that church is completely irrelevant to their life. These stats are particularly challenging to me because of my history is in planting churches. In 2014, 3,700 churches closed their doors permanently, while 4,000 churches were planted. You think, well, we planted more than we closed. And that's true, we did. But another thing you got to take into account, anywhere from 40 to 60% of new church plants don't make it past year 5. So the failure rate of church planting is anywhere from 40 to 60%. That's significant. 2019, the numbers got a little bleaker, with 4,500 churches closing permanently while only 3,000 were planted. So not only is church planting not keeping up with church closures, we're not anywhere near close to keeping up with population growth. So here's a statement that should trouble us all. And the statement is this: that we are living during the greatest decline of Christianity in our nation. And it's on our watch, in our lifetime. The greatest decline of Christianity. And we believe the gospel is the power of God unto salvation. The gospel is true. It is this power of God unto salvation for all who believe. God is holy and perfect and just, and it's not that God has failed. So we got to look into ourselves as Church of Jesus Christ in the United States. What's going on that we are seeing this great decline of the Christian faith in our time? What we believe is that there is a need for a new model. Not to replace the old, but to come alongside of the old. There still is an effectiveness to the prevailing church model. It's perfectly designed to produce the results it's currently getting. And there is some good effect there in a limited fashion. But 70+% of the population has no interest. The prevailing model church has shown itself over the decades to be completely ineffective in a growing and greater way. For those under 40, less than 10%. So 90% of the population in the United States under 40 are unreached by the gospel of Jesus Christ through the prevailing model church. These M2 through M4 categories, they're rapidly growing, and precious few churches are intentionally designed to reach these people within our communities, within our cities. And again, the prevailing model church, it's effective in doing what it's designed to do, but what it's designed to do is geared towards a population of our country that is shrinking and growing smaller and smaller and smaller. So what we need is a model that will go to the M2s, to the M3s, to the M4s, and methods and ministries that are designed to reach them and to meet them where they're at in an uncompromising fashion, bringing the full power of the gospel and the Holy Spirit along with it. So I want to thank you for watching this short video. Please continue into the next one in this series, where we'll begin to look at the unique way that Cultivate is going to reach the next generation. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.